After 15 years of marriage, my wife got dressed for a night out, preparing to meet her lover. She leaned in close to me and whispered, "Jake, I need to feel young and free tonight." What she didn't know was that I had already packed her things and changed the locks on the doors. Meanwhile, her lover's wife was sitting at a restaurant, waiting for both of them, divorce papers in hand. When my wife told me she wanted to feel wild again, I knew those words weren't meant for me. What she didn't realize was that I was about to turn her dream night into a nightmare. These words come from Jake, a devoted contractor and loving husband living in suburban Ohio. For 15 years, Jake and his wife Emily had built what seemed like a perfect life together. They raised 2 children, shared laughter over family dinners, and weathered the ups and downs of marriage. But recently, something had changed. The once warm and predictable relationship had become distant, almost secretive. Late nights at work, muffled phone conversations, and the glow of her phone screen at odd hours began to replace the quiet intimacy they once shared. Jake noticed the changes immediately. He had always been attentive, and this shift didn't go unnoticed. When he asked her about it, Emily's responses were vague, filled with deflections. As the cracks in their relationship deepened, Jake's mind raced with possibilities. Was she unhappy? Was he losing her? But instead of confronting her, Jake chose to suppress his growing concerns. He convinced himself that it was just a rough patch, a phase they would work through as they always had. What he didn't know was that Emily's desire to feel young and wild again was about to lead them both into a devastating collision of betrayal, heartbreak, and a twist that would change their lives forever. As Jake continued to notice subtle changes in Emily's behavior, his suspicions deepened. She was spending more time on her phone, often smiling at messages she never shared. She began dressing up more frequently, without any clear explanation. These small shifts weighed heavily on Jake's mind. But the tipping point came one evening when he overheard part of a phone conversation. The words weren't clear, but the tone was unmistakably intimate. Later, Jake caught a glimpse of a flirtatious message on Emily's phone. The sight shook his trust in their marriage and confirmed his worst fears. Unable to confront her directly, Jake's anxiety spiraled, leading him to quietly observe her actions. He made mental notes of her new habits, errands that took longer than usual, unexplained absences, and hours of unaccounted time. Each observation heightened his sense of unease, pushing him further into a world of doubt and fear. The more he watched, the clearer it became that something was terribly wrong. Left with no choice but to act, Jake knew he had to uncover the truth, no matter what it cost. His suspicions grew stronger, and the stage was set for an inevitable confrontation. Sitting alone in their living room, Jake reflected on the 15 years of marriage they had shared and the family they had built together. The heartbreak was overwhelming, but amid the pain, he resolved to stay calm and act strategically. A rash confrontation could only lead to chaos. So Jake decided to approach the situation with care and caution. In this moment of clarity, Jake stumbled upon an unexpected detail that would change everything. He discovered that Emily's lover was also married. This revelation sparked an idea. Instead of confronting Emily alone, Jake decided to reach out to the man's wife. He believed that by joining forces, they could uncover the full truth and hold both their spouses accountable for the betrayal. With a plan beginning to take shape, Jake focused on executing it with precision. Determined to address the affair calmly but decisively, his heartbreak shifted into a quiet resolve as he prepared for the confrontation that would change everything. Now that the truth about Emily's affair was undeniable, Jake began to put his plan into action. He waited for the perfect moment. It came when Emily was upstairs, preoccupied with getting ready for her planned date, unaware of what was about to unfold. She spent hours preparing, while Jake moved forward with his own preparations. He started by packing Emily's belongings into suitcases. Each item was a symbolic farewell to the life they had once shared. He placed them neatly by the front door, marking the end of their marriage. Then, he changed the locks on all the doors, ensuring that when Emily returned, it would no longer feel like home. Each turn of the key echoed in the silence, a sound representing Jake's determination to protect himself and their children from further harm. With Emily absent, Jake takes the next decisive step in his plan. He reaches out to the wife of Emily's lover. The conversation feels surreal, yet oddly freeing. As they talk, they realize they share a common suspicion. Both have been dealing with their spouse's infidelity. United by a mutual betrayal, they agree to meet at the restaurant where their partners plan to rendezvous, determined to expose the truth. As time ticks by, Jake experiences an unexpected calm. The rage that once consumed him has transformed into a steely resolve. He knows the aftermath will be messy, but there is a sense of closure in taking control of the situation. Each element of his plan falls into place, and he steels himself for the inevitable confrontation, ready to face the truth and reclaim his dignity in the process. The fateful night arrives. Emily, filled with anticipation, is oblivious to the storm gathering around her. She spends hours carefully selecting her outfit, dressing in a way Jake hasn't seen in years. Her excitement is palpable, though she tries to cover it up with vague excuses about the event she claims to be attending. Just before leaving, she turns to Jake with a sly smile and whispers, "I need to feel young and wild again tonight." The words hit Jake like a sharp blow, but he remains composed, offering her nothing more than a knowing, silent look. As the door quietly closes behind her, Jake stands motionless, watching through the window as she drives away. His mind floods with memories of the life they once shared. Laughter, struggles, and the love that had once bound them together. In an instant, everything they built over 15 years begins to unravel. Despite the weight of sorrow threatening to overwhelm him, Jake steadies himself. He knows there's no turning back now. At the restaurant, the plan Jake set in motion begins to unfold. Emily's lover arrives first, expecting a romantic evening, but instead, he's met by his furious wife, holding divorce papers in hand. Her voice rises as she demands answers, quickly drawing the attention of onlookers. What was meant to be a private moment of romance transforms into a tense, humiliating spectacle. Moments later, Emily arrives, excitement written all over her face. But that excitement quickly fades when she sees the scene before her. She freezes, her carefully crafted image of the evening shattering in an instant as she witnesses her lover being confronted by his wife. The reality of her choices begins to sink in. The glamorous night she had envisioned has turned into a public disaster, and now she finds herself at the center of a storm. As Emily's night unravels, Jake's plan continues with precision. Back at home, he waits in silence, knowing that Emily will soon return to find her belongings packed by the door and the locks changed. Sure enough, her frantic calls begin. Each message becomes more desperate than the last. Pleas, apologies, and attempts to manipulate him into letting her back in. But Jake remains unmoved, ignoring each attempt and focusing solely on moving forward and rebuilding the life she had torn apart. Meanwhile, at the restaurant, chaos reigns. The lover's wife, armed with evidence and years of pent-up frustration, takes control of the situation. She doesn't just expose her husband's affair. She ensures both Emily and her lover are publicly humiliated. She confronts Emily directly, dismantling every excuse with cold, undeniable facts. Patrons watch in stunned silence, their whispers adding to the weight of the moment. For Jake, hearing about the fallout brings a sense of closure. Emily and her lover are forced to face the consequences, not privately, but under the harsh scrutiny of public judgment. The cracks in Jake's life, once overwhelming, now appear as opportunities to rebuild on a stronger foundation. Though the pain of betrayal is still fresh, this marks the beginning of a new chapter, one without lies, deception, or the person who shattered his trust. As the dust settles, Jake takes a moment to reflect on the whirlwind of events that led him here. Exposing Emily's betrayal wasn't just an act of retaliation. It was a way to reclaim his dignity and find closure. While the pain of losing 15 years of marriage lingers, Jake finds comfort in knowing he took control of his life, rather than letting the betrayal define him. Facing the truth, though incredibly difficult, becomes a turning point. Looking back, Jake realizes that while betrayal fractured the foundation of his marriage, it also set him free, giving him the chance to rebuild his life on his own terms. With quiet determination, he resolves to focus on healing and finding the peace that had been missing for far too long. His final message resonates deeply. Sometimes, the hardest truths lead to the strongest resolutions. Betrayal may break you, but it also sets you free. As the story concludes, Jake turns to the audience, inviting them to reflect on his journey. What would you have done in my situation? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more gripping stories like this. With this call to action, Jake's story transitions from personal reflection to a shared experience, leaving the audience with a lingering question to ponder. Thank you for being a part of the story with me. If it moved you, please give the video a thumbs up and consider subscribing. By subscribing, you're not just following a channel. You're joining a community that values meaningful storytelling. Let's continue exploring these heartfelt journeys together. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you won't miss the next story.